Welcome, I'm Ian from Back to Life Clinic in Newark, and I'm going to be showing you my 10 top tips for how to set up your work desk with the aim to minimise any potential back and neck pain when you're working from home. So I'm an osteopath, and every day I help people with those different aches and pains all over their bodies, often from their work posture. So these 10 top tips are all things that I use myself and I recommend to my patients as well. So obviously everyone is different, so not all of these tips may be relevant for your situation. So we have to advise that if anything doesn't feel right for you, then simply avoid that one. Or alternatively, you can come into the clinic and we can provide a bespoke treatment and advice just for you. So let's get on with the Back to Life Clinic 10 top tips for your home and work desk setup. So our first top tip is about the seat on your chair. So ideally you want your hips to be sort of ever so slightly sort of higher than your knees. Okay, so this is going to take a lot of that sort of pressure off your lower back. So if you have a chair that will tilt, then it's great. You can just simply set the base to slightly tilt down at the front. But if you don't, and particularly if you're using dining table chair, something like that, if you don't, then you need to improvise. So this is where our top tip number 2 comes in. So the second tip is using towels and pillows to support you in a comfortable and relaxed posture. So to help with the tilt, you can use a little pillow or a folded towel to help raise your hips. So I'm going to show you a picture from the side so you can try and see that now. So here we are from the side, and you can see that at the moment we're in a straight line between hips and knees, whereas what we really want is that slight tilt down. So if I just lifted myself up, we want that sort of angle coming down. Okay, so we can just use a pillow and place it in. Okay, and what you can see now is that I've got that lovely angle coming down, all right, on the side. So the second part of this with the pillows and with towels is that your leg, the whole of your leg here on the chair, okay, wants to be resting on the actual seat. So a simple check for this is to use your hand, and if you can slide your hand under, so I'm going to lift my leg up a little bit so it still looks like it's on the chair, but I can slide my hand all the way under, which basically means that part of my leg isn't helping me at all with my back. If my leg's down and I can't get my hand in there anymore, okay, it means the whole of my leg is supporting my upper body, okay, and that's going to make it so much nicer for your lower back. All right, those muscles won't have to work as hard anymore. Okay, so if your leg is sort of high, then again, a little folded towel, place it under the leg. All of a sudden, I can't get my hand under there, my leg's being supported nicely, and my back muscles are going to relax some more. So we've seen the view from the side there with the pillow and the towels under the leg. So what you should then have is that your feet are lovely and sort of flat on the floor, okay, just resting down on the floor. If the chair is a little bit high and your feet are just dangling, that's the point where you maybe use a little footstool or a box, something like that you can place just under the feet, just to make sure that you've got support under there as well. What you don't want is that your feet are dangling off the chair, they're not touching the floor, because that's going to put too much pressure just behind the knees, and you've got lots of blood flow going down there, so you don't really want to be trapped in that area. So if you just have your legs nicely supported, or those feet nicely supported, with the legs resting on the chair, that's perfect. So, top tip number 3, it's about the sort of the height of the table and the chair. And at home, it's unlikely you can do much about the height of your table or the chair. So unless you've got a chair that, obviously raises up and down, that's great. But if you haven't, and the tables are normally sort of fairly stood. If you haven't, then you might need to adjust those somehow. So what we can talk through is the ideal first, and then we can look at how maybe you can improvise at home. So ideally, your chair base is set at a height so that your feet, as we mentioned before, are flat on the floor, okay, with your thighs fully supported, as we've just discussed. So when you sit upright then, all right, and you relax those shoulders, okay, your elbows, and I'll see if we can see, we can't quite see, I'm just going to tilt you down a little bit just so you can see my elbows onto that. So we're going to relax those shoulders down, elbows at the side of the body, and the hands are out in front. Okay, so roughly where they come to is where you want the table to be. Okay, so your wrist should end up just slightly lower again than your elbow. That's the sort of perfect position for you if possible. So this is showing you from the side now. We've got the shoulders nicely relaxed, elbows by the sides, and the table height roughly sort of, ideally wrist just below the elbows on there. What we don't really want is this sort of position when you're having to hold up, because what that tends to make you do is raise those shoulders. Okay, so we want to keep those shoulders down and the desk height around there. So the final point in the heights is the screen height. So ideally, the top of your screen should be roughly sort of eye level. So if you're working on a laptop and it's sat on the desk itself, okay, what you'll end up doing is tilting down and looking down like that. So what we want is to bring that screen up so you can look straight ahead. All right, but that's going to mean, ideally, you don't really want to be working on the sort of the laptop up high like this. You want to have the keyboard sort of low down. So probably going to mean trying to get hold of a separate keyboard and mouse. Is that example? Something, this is about sort of £10 sort of keyboard, just Bluetooth that hooks up to the laptop. What you may also be able to find, I'm sure lots of you have got old computers that you probably don't use anymore. There's probably some keyboards and mice sat around. Can you plug those into your current computer that you've got and use those instead? So I'm sure there's something you can improvise with around there to try and keep it so that your keyboard is low but the screen is lovely and high. So to raise that screen up, I'll try and show you now on here. So this setup is just sat on a box with a separate keyboard, and it's just raised up. So this is perfect height for me. We're basically at eye level with the top of the screen, and separate keyboard, and that's a good sort of setup from there. With your desk height, if your chair does lift up and down, obviously then you can adjust that height to get you at the perfect sort of height for the table. And if your legs are dangling, you may need to use a little footstool or a box underneath. Or alternatively, you might need to use the towels that we've discussed just to support under the thighs and give you that extra sort of comfort and support around there. The other option is if you can't quite get that height right, is there a different table that'd be better? So often, you may have a work desk that may be a sort of kitchen table. There's different they're all slightly different heights. So you may be able to find something that's a little bit better, sort of perfect height for you. And also remember that lots of those work desks that you get at home, they all have, lots of them have adjustable feet that you can sort of screw out and raise the height sort of up and down a little as well. So see if there's some adjustments there that you can do to sort of get that perfect height for yourself. With the screen as well, we've already sort of mentioned about trying to bring it up, but just as a sort of point for you, if you end up with the screen low down, so you're sort of looking down like this with that head in front, what you've got to remember is your head is roughly the weight of a bowling ball. So, just imagine just holding that ball out in front of your body all day. So, it's no wonder that your neck muscles are going to become really tired. So, if you can't get that sort of height up, or you've not got the separate keyboard and your screen needs to be lower, right, what you can try to do instead is, instead of tilting forwards like this, so your shoulders, your body, your head goes forwards, what you can try to do is keep that head above your body and just tilt down instead. So it's a little bit odd. It's not particularly sort of a sort of usual technique, because you normally just bend your body. That's what we're all used to. But yeah, if you can keep that head upright and just tilt down instead, it's much less work for those neck muscles. So by the end of the day, sort of 8 hours of doing that, they're going to be a lot happier. Right, so let's move on to tip number 4, and this is about sort of sitting technique. And this may sound a bit of a strange one, but how you line up to sit on your chair makes a huge difference to what's happening in your lower back. So it's a little sort of technique that I like to use, and it's especially I especially use it when I'm sitting on chairs that aren't particularly sort of great, that sort of aren't particularly ergonomically designed. Quite often sort of meeting chairs are often really bad, I find. It gives me a lot of sort of backache if I don't sit properly in them. So it's also going to be useful for you at your work desk. So I'll try and show you from the side as well, this one. But basically, if you can imagine the sort of sitting bones, all right, that when you're sitting on in your bottom, lots of people sort of sit on the back of those sitting bones. And what that tends to do is to sort of flatten your lower back, all right, and it makes you slump down in the chair. So what we want you to do is, instead of sitting on the sort of the back of those sitting bones, we're going to want you to sit on the front. So I'm going to try and show you from the side so you can see what I mean. Looking from the side here. So we've got the sitting bones here, all right. What most people do is sit on the back here, so you can see that, right, and it's flattened my lower back out in here. So what we're going to do instead, all right, we're going to come up. So there's sitting bones there, and we're actually going to aim to sit here, not here. So by sitting this, and what we end up doing when we sit down, you need to sort of tilt your pelvis a little, and we're going to aim to sit on this bit, all right, instead. And you can see instantly now, I've got that curve here in my lower back, rather than when I sit like that and my back's very sort of flat or even curved the opposite way. So this is a great way to just help instantly that lower back sort of posture when you haven't got a great sort of lumbar support with the chair. So top tip number 5. This is a brilliant one that I use in clinic a lot. And what we're going to basically imagine is that we've got a helium balloon tied to your head and it's pulling you lovely and tall. So I quite often use it with people when they're standing and they're sort of standing posture, but it's also equally as good for when you're sitting. Okay, so what you can imagine is that balloon isn't tied to the front of your head, because if it was, it would do that, okay, and tilt that head upwards. So it's actually tied at the back, all right, up here. And what happens is that your whole head and body lift upwards, okay? So instead of doing that, it's pulling everything lovely and tall. Okay, so what you instantly do with your back is get your lovely sort of curves, and everything sort of stacks on top of each other. So all your back muscles and your neck muscles are all working less hard. So again, by the end of the day, they're going to be a lot less tired. So that brings us perfectly onto top tip number 6. And it's about setting up the back of your chair. So we've got that lovely sort of tall posture, all right? If you look from the side, instead of sort of slumping down, we're going to be lovely and sort of tall and pulled up, okay, into that with the shoulders relaxed. So what we need to do then is to create the sort of support for your back. So if your chair doesn't adjust, or if it does adjust, that's great. What you can do is get that chair to tilt up, and the amount of how far forward you bring it is when that chair, it sort of feels like it's not pushing you forward, but it just feels like it's giving you a gentle little hug. All right, so it should be just sort of feels like it nicely supporting you and just making the enabling those muscles in your back to work a little less hard, you know, and have a bit more sort of rest, a bit more ease when you're sitting there for the number of hours during the day. If you haven't got that, that's when your lovely pillows come in handy again. All right, so you can place those pillows in behind you. All right, so that again it doesn't feel like you're being pushed forward, but you've just got that lovely little bit of support, ideally up to your shoulders, so that you can just relax these shoulders down, just sit nicely there, and then be working sort of at your desk. Okay, so that's the perfect one with your pillows holding you up nicely in the back. So that's now bringing us on to top tip number 7. It is about these shoulders. And we've mentioned it sort of a few times already. About those shoulders, what we don't want is them being hunched up like this. All right, you see it, lots of people, they're sort of crouched over their laptop or over the desk. Heads forward, shoulders are forward, they're round and they're hunched up. So all that's going to do is get you really, really tight in these chest muscles, these pec muscles here, and tighten those sort of neck muscles as well at the back. So what we actually want you to do is to relax them. All right, just let them drop down. So there shouldn't be any tension in here, right? You shouldn't be feeling like they're holding up like this. So you want them nice and relaxed and down. And what's going to help you with that is to get close into the table. Okay, and we'll try and see if I can sort of show you on here. But we're going to come in, and what you want then is your elbows, all right, to be nicely supported on the table. All right, so if you can get in, you can rest your arms on there, and then these muscles aren't needing to hold your arms up because they're being supported by the table instead. So again, that just helps you relax around here. So if you've got arms on the chair, you may be able to use those, but if you haven't, then get in nice and close to that table and get those forearms and elbows sort of supported on the table, and then you can relax your shoulders. So we've talked about the sort of the setup of your desk now. The sort of top tip number 8 is about stretchers. So sitting at a desk that's not perfect for you, even sort of a good desk, to be honest, when you sort of good desk setup, you're going to lead to sort of tension and tightness in muscle, particularly sort of chest muscles at the front, bringing those shoulders round. We mentioned about the neck ones as well, pulling up, and obviously your back muscles as well. So performing some stretches for those is great. Your body's going to really thank you for it. And it also stops that build-up, so it stops it getting worse and worse and worse. So it's a great tool that you've got that will help you to sort of stop that pain getting worse, and just means you can get it, you can sort of prevent it and just make your life much more enjoyable and pain-free when you're sat at your desk. So the stretchers that I would recommend, I've done videos for before, and what I'm going to do is, if possible, I'm going to try and put a link on here so that you can access those. But basically they're on the Back to Life Clinic website. You can just go into the resources tab, and lots of great stretching videos on there. But the ones you're going to be looking out for mainly are the neck stretchers around here. We've got the front of the chest stretchers for these pec muscles, okay? And we've got one for arching your back, and that just counters that stooping over sort of posture, and it's great. It's amazing to sort of just open up and stretch out. But with your back, another sort of useful one that's not covered in those videos is just doing that. What I've just done there is sitting in your chair, just raising up and just arching into that back. So as long as it's sort of comfortable with your shoulders and things, just sort of opening, it's great. Just sort of gets you, opens your ribs out again, stops that sort of tightness feeling in here as well. So that's a great one to sort of add through the day for you, as well as the other videos as well. So we're moving on. We're near the end now. So top tip number 9. So there is lots and lots of advice at the moment about not sitting all day. And to be honest, sitting all day is not what we're designed to do. It's not a perfect sort of environment for us. So moving about and getting up is a great thing to do. So in the office, that happens much more sort of normally or organically. You have meetings, you go and talk to people. Things happen and you're up and out of your desk. So at home, that tends to be a little bit sort of less common. So, you could quite easily be sat there for several hours during the day. So what we want to try and do, we're going to have to sort of create those scenarios where you're going to get up and move around. So one perfect example is just setting an alarm. This is one thing I used to do, was set an alarm for about sort of 45 minutes. You just click snooze, sort of get up, then snooze it. It'll go off again, another 45 minutes. It's just a great reminder to sort of get up out of your desk and have a little move around. Okay, so trying to sort of link it with tasks as well. So if you're sort of on the phone a lot, maybe you could, answer the phone standing up. So every time the phone goes, or you're making a call, get up and sort of answer the phone and take that phone call standing up instead of sitting at your desk. So it just sort of helps you somehow just build in some of that getting up and out of your chair. So you're not sort of sat there just constantly 3-4 hours plus, in the day. Another helpful one is sort of standing desks, but I'm not going to expect you to sort of go and invest in a desk where you can sort of stand up, but you can sort of improvise it. So some things that I've seen people do which seem to work really well is obviously your kitchen counters are much higher than a normal desk. So especially if you can then put a box on top of that, you can have the screen high with the keyboard sort of on the kitchen worktop. And again, that's just a great way to do a temporary, sort of short-term standing desk instead of sort of just sat all day. Another great one that I saw with somebody was they cleared a shelf on their bookshelf and they just put the laptop in there. So again, they had the high screen, separate keyboard below, and then they could just work sort of standing up. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest being stood up all day. I don't think that's great for you either. But if you can sort of alternate through the day, do a little bit of each, then that's great for your back. It's going to be really enjoy not being in that one position all day. So we're on to our final top tip. So number 10, and this is just basically taking your time in the morning. So it's so easy just to, it's like, right, we're rushing in, get sat down, get working. And instead of that, what I want you to do is just take a couple of minutes right at the start of the day and just get that desk set up right. So we've talked through all the different bits, we've said the pillows, the towels, raising the desk up. A lot of it you can sort of leave as is, but what we want you to do is just get those things right for you in the morning, okay, so that by the end of the day, you're not going to be in pain anymore. You're going to be your back's going to be happy, and you're not going to have any of those aches going on. So yeah, it's just worth that first couple of minutes right at the start of the day, maybe again after lunch, something like that. Every time you sort of sit down, just take that little moment of time just to sort of get that set up right. Get yourself nice and relaxed. Remember those shoulders, drop down, that balloon pulling you up. Okay, and that should lead to hours working at home with a happy, sort of pain-free back. So I hope you found these top 10 tips helpful for keeping your back nice and sort of pain-free and happy whilst you're working at home. If you do want to sort of make any comments, then please, we've got a Facebook page at Back to Life Clinic and our website at backtolifeclinic.co.uk. Or you can also give us a call in the clinic. It's 01636 36 20 22. And really look forward to hearing your comments, or if there's anything that we can do to help any other sort of aches and pains that you have, then please do let us know, and we'll see how we can help. All right. Thank you.